So what we're going to do is we're going to learn this thing called the substitution method. If you're wondering what the substitution method is, it's where we replace a variable in one equation with a variable from a different equation. The substitution method is where we replace a variable in one equation with a variable from a different equation. And I'm going to show you this because I'm a visual person. I'm going to show you how I do it. We're going to do like a beginning, a medium, and then kind of a hard is what I'm planning on doing. When we do this, we need to make sure sometimes we use, most of the time we're going to need to use parentheses. Parentheses. Most of the time we'll need to use parentheses. Okay, this is going to look like number 2. Y equals negative 2x plus 5, and 3y is equal to negative x minus 5. I'm going to scoot that up a little more. So this is literally what you're going to see on your worksheet, and you're going to have to figure out what the x and y is that works. And we're doing this without graphing. So the very first step that we want to do, steps. Over off the side I have here that what the steps are. Look for the easiest variable to get by itself. Look for the easiest variable to get by itself. That's the very first thing we do. And I want to tell you what that means after you're done writing it down. Look for the easiest variable to get by itself. Here's what that means. If I wanted to get this x by itself, this is the variable, right? I would have to subtract the 5, and I would have to divide by negative 2. I have 2 steps to do to get this x by itself. If I try to get this x by itself, I would have to add the 5 and then move the negative. If I wanted to get this y by itself, I would have to divide by 3, divide by 3, divide by 3. If I want the y by itself, this y is by itself. I know what this y is equal to. When I look at this, I immediately know which variable I'm going to use. I am going to use this variable. Why am I going to use it? Because it's already by itself. It's already y equals something. Does that make sense to you? So here's what I do in these problems. After I find the easiest variable to get by itself, guess what? Sometimes they're already going to be by themselves. I put a triangle around it. And I want you to think of this triangle is made of metal. It's made of steel. Okay? And we have a triangle, and that triangle weighs the exact same thing, is equal to. I want you to put a box around the 2x plus 5. the negative 2x plus 5. And this is made out of cardboard. Very thick cardboard, but it's cardboard. This metal triangle weighs the same amount as this piece of cardboard. If I put it on a scale, the scale would stay exactly the same. It doesn't tilt one way or the other if I were to weigh them or compare them. This is the same thing as that. The substitution method is where I take a variable. Since I know what y is equal to, since I know that this triangle weighs the same thing as that rectangle, what I can do is I can replace the y in this equation with the rectangle. So that's what we're going to do for step 2. Step 2. Replace the triangle with the rectangle in the other equation. It says replace the triangle with a rectangle in the other equation. This is a little confusing, so I'll walk you through it. What that means is I know what the y is equal to. This triangle is equal to this rectangle, but in this equation, in the second equation, in the other equation, 3 times y. I have a triangle right here. That's the same thing. The y is in the triangle. This 3 is timesing this triangle that's right there. But I want to substitute it. I want to replace this triangle with the rectangle in the other equation. So here's what I do. Just like I did before in other problems, I have the 3. See how I did not replace that? And then I have this triangle. I need to replace the triangle. This is where I use parentheses. 3, triangle. 3, triangle. I'm using parentheses for the triangle. Equals. Equals. What comes next? What's after the equal sign I need to write down? Negative x. What's after the negative x? So now all you really have to do is go, what was the triangle the same thing as? What am I going to substitute in for the triangle? I hope you know what the triangle is equal to. That's what goes in there. That is the hardest part. Everything else after this is easy. It's just basic math. The hardest part is knowing how to plug that in and how to write this equation. So here's what I want you to do really quickly. Before we do anything else, you're sitting next to somebody and one of you two probably understands what I just did there. What I want you to do is with the person you're sitting next to, whoever understands what I just did to get this, I want you to explain to the other person. I want you to have a quick conversation about what I did. Summarize it to your partner. You got it? Take 1 minute. Discuss.
Yeah, okay. So technically you put a triangle around like y or whatever variable looks by itself, and then there is like a number next to the variable, then you move it to the other side to make a new equation, and then you add in the leftover equation from the y, and then you put that in parentheses, and then you take the second equation.
So, because
A little confusing, but it works.
has the y equals negative 2x plus 5, then you can use that and have 3
Is it x equals
y
4?
negative 2x plus 5.
Yeah. That's not the final answer though.
Oh, there's more?
Yes, of course there's more. Okay, so I'm hoping you understood the hardest part. I'm hoping that what I just did made sense. So now we're going to continue on, and I have 5 steps that we're writing down. We need to write down step 3. Solve for the first variable. Solve for the first variable. Just so you're aware, there's an x and a y over here, so I can't figure out what it is. There's an x and a y here. I can't figure out what the x is or the y is. I can get them by themselves, but I can't figure out what their values are unless I have an equation that has only x's or only y's in it. Now my equation only has x's in it. So what I can do now is I can solve for this x variable. I can distribute the 3. The 3 is multiplying the triangle, so I have to multiply to this negative 2x plus 5, which makes negative 6x plus 15. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add 6x. That'll make the x's positive. 6x minus 1x is 5x. Then I'll add 5 to both sides. Then I'll divide by 5, which is all stuff we've done before, and you have solved for the first variable. You have done step 3. All I've done is the math. Get this by itself, move the 5 over, do the opposite of times, which is divide, and I get x equals 4. That's half of your answer. Now what you have to do, step 4. Plug this into, let me scoot that up and over and center it for you. Plug this into the easiest equation to find the second variable. Sometimes there's not going to be an easiest equation, but I want to write that because always look for the easiest path. Unless you're working out, then you want to try the harder path. Okay? Plug this into the easiest equation to find the second variable. You now know what x is equal to. It's equal to 4. So when I go here, I can plug in, since I know that that's a 4 and that's a 4, which equation looks easiest to me? The 3y equals negative x minus 5 or the y equals negative 2x plus 5?
Y equals negative 2x, the first one.
The top one. You would think this is the easiest one? It doesn't matter which one you pick. The easiest one is whichever one you decide looks like it has the easiest math to do. We're going to pick I'll pick the top one. And I'm going to plug in 4. X, I'm sorry that you can't see that, so let me recenter it. There we go. X is equal to 4, so let me plug that in. Y equals negative 2x plus 5. Negative 2 times the 4. Don't forget, when you plug it in, you use parentheses. Plus 5 equals y. Now I can work this out. Negative 2 times 4 is negative 8 plus 5. If you are not good with this, use a calculator. Negative 8 plus 5. 5 take away 8 is going to be negative 3. This is the second half of your answer. But it's not your final answer. Your final answer is the last step that we do is write as an ordered pair, x comma y. Write as an ordered pair, x comma y. Our final answer is never just this half and never just this half. Where do these two lines intersect? They intersect at this point. 4 comma negative 3. That's our final answer. Our final answer is just like what we did, except we're now doing it without graphing. Where do they cross? Here. 4 negative 3. And as a matter of fact, for those of you who in here want to know, am I right? Did I do this correctly? You can find out by plugging this into the top equation. If you plug in the 4 into here, and you plug the y into that equation, negative 3 equals, plug the 4 in, negative 2 times 4 plus 5. If you work that out, it should work. You can check your solution. Negative 3 equals negative 8 plus 5. Does it work? Is it on the line? If it is, good, it's on the top line. You can check to see if it's on the bottom line as well. 3 times the y equals the negative x minus 5. I'm just checking my solution. That makes negative 9. Negative 4 minus 5 is negative 9. It works. You can always check. This is a way for you to know beyond a shadow of a doubt whether your answer is right or whether it's wrong. Okay. I want to do another example. Let's go to number 4. This is like a next level. Number 4 says 4x minus y equals negative 11. 2y plus x equals 4. Can't see it. Let me recenter. 4x minus y equals negative 11. 2y plus x equals 4. Now let me ask you a question. It goes right back to step 1. Look for the easiest variable to get by itself. Is it going to be this x that has a 4 next to it and a y on that side? Is it the 2y? Is it the negative y? Do I want a negative in front of it and move the 4x? Do I want to get the x by itself? Which one looks like the easiest to get by itself? The 4x, the negative y, the 2y, or the x? Which one would you get by itself? If you said the x, if you're thinking the x, that's exactly what I would do. Okay? So this is what I want to get by itself. I want to know what x is equal to. So the very first thing that I do is I'm going to subtract 2y, and I'm going to subtract 2y. How come? Because 2y minus 2y goes away. X equals 4 minus 2y. Do you see how that works? Can't put them together. They're not like terms. This variable that's by itself is your x. That's your triangle. That triangle weighs the same amount as that rectangle because one's made of metal, the other's made of cardboard. But they weigh the same. So you know what this x is equal to. And remember, this equation is the same as the bottom equation. So I'm not going to plug this into here. You never plug this into the same equation. You always have to plug it into the other equation. That means I need to rewrite the top piece. 4 times something minus y equals negative 11, I'm going to need to know what the triangle is in the other equation. Here's my triangle. Let me lower that down a little bit so you could see. 4 times the triangle minus y equals negative 11. I'm hoping you can write it out. Go ahead and write down what you think is going to go there real quick. And then I'll show you what it should be. Try it. If you get it wrong, you'll just cross it off and you'll write down the right answer. It's okay. Put down what you think it is, Jer. Yeah, put down what you think you're going to be getting right there. Hang in there, Adeline. Oh, yes. 4, instead of the triangle, parentheses, the triangle weighs the same as 4 minus 2y minus y equals negative 11. That's what I'm hoping you wrote down. Now I'm curious, how many of you wrote down exactly what I have up here? Please raise your hand and see how many got it correct with the substitution method. Ooh, not enough. Okay, that's less than 50%. So I'm glad I'm going to do one more example after this. Okay? Here's what I did just in case. 4x minus y equals negative 11. 4x minus y equals negative 11. Instead of the x, I replace the x with 4 minus 2y because that's the same thing. Now that you have this, can I figure out what y is equal to? Yep. Distribute 16. Don't forget to distribute donuts to the other side. 16 minus 8y minus y equals negative 11. We can put these together. They're on the same side, so just put them together. Negative 8 minus 1 is negative 9y. I'm going to subtract 16. Subtract 16. And I get negative 9y equals negative 27. If you're doing this right, every single problem comes out nice and even. Every number is going to be a whole number, not a fraction, not a decimal. It can be negative or it could be positive. Divide by negative 9, divide by negative 9. Negative divided by a negative is a positive 3. This is half of our answer. Which equation is the easiest? The top one, the bottom one, or the one we just figured out right here? Let's use this one. X equals 4 minus 2 times y. What was y? Plug it in. 4 minus 6 is? That's the other half of your answer, but that's not how we give our answer. We give our answer as an ordered pair. My final answer should be negative 2, 3. You could plug it in to check to see if you're right. There you go. I want to show you one more example. One more example, and then I'm going to give you a chance to work on this, okay? Here's the last example that I have for you, and it's kind of an advanced idea, but I want you to see it, at least the first step. 4y. This shouldn't be a 2, this should be a 3. 4y equals 5x minus 1. Let me move that up a little bit. 4y equals 5x minus 1. And then 6x minus 4y equals 2. (4y) equals 5x minus 1 and 6x minus 4y equals 2. Now, in my first step, I said look for the easiest variable to get by itself. But. sometimes. Do you see how there's a 4y here? Is there a 4y down here? Do I know what 4y is equal to? Sometimes, if you're advanced, you can put the triangle around something that's not by itself. If you want, since you know what 4y is equal, this is a bigger triangle. See how much bigger that is? That means there's a bigger rectangle that's equal to. 4y is equal to the 5x minus 1. You can go and replace the whole 4y in the equation down here. This is your triangle. As long as they're the same, you can still use the substitution method. I'm sure your 8th grade teacher never taught you that. But I like showing it to you because I know I have some honors kids in here who can do this. And even some regular kids can do this too. I bet you guys get it. So this is the equation. I want to rewrite it. I hope you know what to write down. Let's try this one. Just show me what you get after you plug this in. Put down what you think it is. If you get it wrong, you'll just cross it off and you'll write down something else. But I want to see, can you write this equation when you substitute it in? Let's see if you have the same thing as I do. And I'm hoping I get more than 40% of you getting it right. I'm hoping you're writing 6x. Then you see a minus sign, you write a minus sign, but instead of the triangle, you use a parenthesis equals 2, and you should know what goes in the parenthesis. It should be 5x minus 1. How many of you wrote this for your first step? Please raise your hand. That's at least 60%. I'm over halfway this time. That's much better. It's not perfect, but we'll get better at it as we work these problems out together. Now all I do is this, and I figure out what x is. I'm not going to finish this problem. I'm going to give you a chance to do that on your worksheet. Right now, on your worksheet, you should be able to do numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, even explain these things. You're going to have issues with 10 and 11, so you can skip those temporarily. You can skip 12 and 13 temporarily, and then you should be able to get to these ones, and there are a few trick questions there. I'll talk a little bit more about those in a little bit.